Hail them.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
Hailing frequencies open.
I don't know why I keep giving alien street food a chance. It's always such a gamble.
Captain, we're being hailed.
On screen.
Hello and welcome to another Hailing Frequencies Open podcast where we trek through the past and future of Star Trek. As always, I'm your host, Mike Jones, and joining me this week in the virtual studio, we have, let's go one at a time, my co-host, Damien. Say hi, Damien.
Hi, Mike Jones. I kind of want to point out that you may have just screwed up your own name and had to redo it. Are we allowed to talk about that?
No, that is going to be the editor's secret.
Oh, you're gonna cut it out. You're gonna cut it out. God damn it.
My mind went ahead to joining me, so I said Mike joins. Anyway, also joining me from 2 time zones away or 3 time zones away, Ben Hollywood Whitmore. Say hi, Ben.
Hey, everybody! Glad to be here today. I am jonesing you today.
You've been jonesing to get back on the pod.
I've been jonesing to get on this podcast. You're right. It's absolutely true.
And then in our 4th chair, we have special guest, a previous guest coming back. Somehow we tricked him into coming back. Steve, say hello.
Hello. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
We're so glad you're here.
I'm a little bummed that Aaron's not here because I was telling Damien I have the biggest effing crush on Aaron. I just want to be her best friend so hard.
Everyone does. Everyone loves Aaron. That should be a show.
Aaron's the best. Well, it would be nice to have a female voice in the episode.
We got a joke this week.
But what?
We got a man panel this week.
A man, right? It's a
locker room talk.
Well, we're talking about doctoring, and doctoring is for the men. So,
oh God, this isn't about nurses. Oh God,
alienated.
Exactly right.
Off to a stellar start.
Well, it's funny. Looking at this list, there's not that many women. So what does that say about Hollywood? Okay, so today we are. You've already read the subject line of the podcast you're listening to, so you know. But just in case you blindly are listening, we're going to talk about Star Trek doctors and debate on who is the best Starfleet doctor, and we're going to use a format called brackets. Okay, so here's the thing. Damien is silently laughing.
When it comes to sports ball, Mike Jones knows basketball.
So
and
I was talking with Tim.
The only reason I'm on this podcast is because I was told there's brackets.
There's brackets.
Just so we know.
Tim was like, we were talking about podcast topics, and he was like, you should do a bracket. Like, I listened to this Disney pod, and they did this whole thing where it was comparing Disney rides against one another. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So then, Damien and I talked about it, and we're like, oh, that's, we figured out doctors would be a good thing to do. Captains would be good. Ships would be good. We could do more of these if it becomes popular. So then when I told Tim we're doing it, he was like, I thought you were going to save that for March Madness. And I was like, I don't know what you mean.
What is March Madness? Is that like a thing that people do?
That's like something for furniture sales and car sales.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right.
So in listening to the Disney, I don't remember the name of the podcast I just listened to. I'll look it up as I'm talking. I did listen to an example of, Main Street Magic, and they were debating Walt Disney World attractions, but they came at it from a very sportsy perspective and talked a lot about seeding the list in the beginning, and like everyone had a rank. And
yeah, it's a good thing I'm on this podcast. I can explain this.
Ben, how does this work?
So it's all based on the rankings. So like, and each conference gets 16 teams. Usually, sometimes it's 32 on each like conference.
Okay.
On each,
we have 16
group.
Doctors.
So there's like 4 groups of 16.
Yes.
Usually it's like 1 and 16 start out, and then 15 and 2. And that's the seed, the way they all start based on those ranks.
The ranks are based on how they performed
that's
the
based on
year?
Yeah, based on their season rankings and prior rankings. Sometimes you can, like, when you're talking basket, I don't mean to be like, I'm the sports guy, because I am not the
'Cause you are
sports
not.
guy.
Oh, you are definitely the sports guy in this room.
On this panel, maybe I am. I don't know. I've never had this much power before, and I'm frankly frightened out of my mind. But yeah, so and there's even things in there that I don't entirely understand. So but yeah, there's like a ranking, and then it's like 1 and 16 in that first group of 16, and then those come up with a winner. It whittles down every matchup, but there's supposedly, like, so when you get to like the middle of the pack, 7 and 8 end up facing each other,
Are
6
about
and 8
the same.
So they're generally about the same. So that's where the upsets can happen, right? Like nobody. And then occasionally there's the Cinderella story of the number 15 seeded team that makes it all the way to the final four or something, or maybe they make it to the national champions and nobody expected them to do so well. And because they play so many games so fast in March for college basketball, that's why it's March Madness, because it's just there's always an upset. It is nearly impossible to have a perfect bracket if you, like, people put them in for betting pools and stuff, but
oh, I didn't even think about gambling.
Oh yeah, people gamble. So, but like,
of course.
it's every one in, I don't know, 40 million people or something can just statistically kind of stumble into a perfect bracket, but it rarely happens.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, I should say that everyone on the platform formerly known as Twitter is laying odds that Beverly Crusher will win this.
Crusher for the win.
Oh,
Okay.
But I do want to clarify, Mike.
Yes.
You do understand, like, how tournament style works, that like the winner goes on to the next round, like that much we get, right? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. That
We've
much I
established
understand.
the ground rules. Yeah, a base level of understanding is required, I guess.
Right. So in in this fantasy world that we're living in, we decided to randomize our list of 16 doctors. And I found a website that makes a random list. I copy pasted the list and it put them in a different order. So that is the order that the doctors are in the bracket. So actually I think it worked out pretty well. I don't think, like, we don't have, I don't know, like McCoy against Crusher or something like that, like, a huge character against another huge character.
Oh, these are hyperlinked. My God, Mike Jones.
They are. So yeah, I made this. Well, okay. I searched for a Google Doc template. This is how nerdy. You listen to a Star Trek podcast. I assume you're also a nerd. I Googled Google sheet. Google Sheet. That's what it's called. Template bracket. And this came up, and I edited it to make it look more Starfleet like. I'll put a link in the show notes for everyone to see it.
I was very impressed.
We can see this in live updates.
Yes.
That's exciting.
See, I said the G word too many times, and it started talking to me. Hey, Google, never mind. It was telling me all about. Oh, good. It didn't come through. Okay, great.
Sorry, Steve. I talked over you when you were.
I do it frequently. I'm trying to be better.
That's what we're known for, talking over each other, right?
Listen, I've been listening to a bunch of other Star Trek podcasts, and we're not the only ones guilty of it. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's what, give the people what they want, I say.
Absolutely. If you have something to say, speak up. So here are the rules. We're not talking about who is the best fleshed out character, because I don't think that's fair to characters that have a lot less screen time. I'm approaching it like, who is the best doctor? Like, if I needed a doctor of the two we're talking about, which one would I pick? Like, whose skill set is better?
You're in the ER, you're bleeding.
Right.
You got two guys in front of you. Who do you pick? Or two guys or gals in front of you. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you're putting together.
There's even a lot of consideration within that, though, Mike Jones. I mean, bedside manner is important for doctors.
Yes.
Not only like, and the just breadth of knowledge, but also like skill and execution of those skills.
Or is it possible that you are the captain of the USS Cortisone and you're looking to hire a doctor for your ship.
Super fans will catch that reference from our appearance on the Trexperts quiz show. So
please, everyone has
out
already
that,
heard on the Trexperts quiz show. It is very famous.
because I am not going to explain the USS Cortisone. You have to find out yourself. You're itching to know. Sorry,
but I will not let that joke die.
Thank you. Okay, so let's jump in. Our first matchup is Dr. Joseph Mabinga against Dr. Mark Piper. Now, Dr. Piper, for those who might not remember, was the chief medical officer on the USS Enterprise in the second pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Yes.
So not the doctor from The Cage, but this actor was replaced, or this, we're not talking about the actors, but this character was replaced by Dr. McCoy.
And I mean, for those of us who may not really know much about Dr. Mark Piper, Mike Jones, can you tell us anything remarkable about him?
Sure. So there's not that much. In Where No Man Has Gone
Is this
Before,
like kind of, would we call this a buy for Mbenga?
Yeah, I mean, this is it's heavily weighted towards Mabinga, I think, this particular round, because Piper was only one episode, and he doesn't solve the problem. Like, two people on the ship have been infected with this ESP problem, and they become, Gary Mitchell becomes godlike, and he's not the hero of the story. And I like, he's I don't know, ready to retire, maybe. I'm going to say Mabinga, obviously.
I think Mabinga's walking away with this one.
Yeah, I'm not even going to waste airtime talking about all the medical procedures I want Mbenga to do to me. So we'll save that for future brackets.
Yeah,
no.
Excellent.
Dr.
Also,
Mbenga,
you never know when your doctor may need to defend the ship during surgery, and he's a really good fighter.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Also fun to say. Better than Piper.
That's true. Mbenga. Okay.
And Piper couldn't even fix those like really uncomfortable looking silver contacts that Sally Kellerman and the other dude had to wear. Those were really unfortunate. Yeah. Pop that shit out.
Thanks for playing Dr. Piper. Have a fun bus ride home.
Womp womp womp. Yeah. Get on the reject shuttle. Okay. Next matchup. And
I just updated on my sheet. I said
we don't. I said the randomization made it so that we don't have any big doctors going against big doctors. That's kind of a lie. So this one's a hard one already. Dr. Phlox versus the Doctor from Voyager.
Oh, my prejudice is that I am.
You love holograms.
Bored by Enterprise.
And all of our Enterprise fans just switched off.
Both of them.
Right.
Oh. No, listen, I think that it is far and away the Doctor, because he was, he is the, questioning the nature of existence. What is sentience? What, all of these things, all these rabbit holes that we love to go down on this podcast. He is the, like, what does it mean to be human character, like searching for his humanity in the tradition of all of these other Spock and Data, etc. Like, I think hands down the Doctor.
That's my vote. Certainly the Doctor. And I'll tell you why. Because he is so much more than just his programming. And I think that is, that's true. I enjoy Dr. Phlox. I do. But I don't think, and again, we're not trying to talk about like how much screen time they got and how well developed their story is.
Sure.
But they had 4 seasons. How many seasons was Enterprise?
4.
Was he on? He was on 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had 4 seasons to do what they did in at least 1 season, I would say, of growth for the Doctor in Voyager.
Okay.
But I know that's not really a qualifying factor, but I would just say the the growth that we see as an entity, as a I won't say a person, but as a as an individual, the growth is remarkable. And I think that would play a big factor in the sense that if they were going to help me medically speaking or otherwise, I think that would count for something in my book.
Steve, thoughts?
I will admit I did not follow Enterprise. I recently rewatched Broken Bow thanks to you all and listening to your more recent podcasts where they were aggressively pressing Enterprise on me. Yeah, I watched it again like just a couple weeks ago, and my takeaway, Dr. Phlox, it was that very kind of, I don't want to say lazy, but it was that very common 90s, early aughts Star Trek of let's just try a different combination of prosthetics onto your forehead and try to MacGyver some new alien out of thin air and then expect people to care about them. He just didn't do it for me. And I didn't obsessively watch Voyager, but I watched enough of it to really, really like the Doctor.
I will defend Dr. Phlox a little bit. The things that I liked about him is he brings almost a holistic approach to medicine. He has all these animals in the sickbay that he uses to make medicines, and he has these plants. Like he brings I don't want to say non-Western, but sort of from a TV writing perspective, that's kind of the idea. Approach to medicine, which I thought was interesting. Also, his species are polyamorous, which I thought was fascinating. Ooh. But all that being said,
Damien's
the Doctor
eyes just lit up suddenly. Like,
oh dear.
Tell me more about the polyamory.
The Doctor, of course, has in his memory banks all of the knowledge and writings of every Doctor in the history. So, we
just gave
clearly the better Doctor.
I was like, clearly, what did I miss? Clearly.
Right. And I just love Robert Picardo. He's just a fun actor.
Oh yeah,
true.
You know what I will say for Phlox is that he is of all of the like alien regulars, he is very alien. And I think in that context where sort of a lot of the human characters are new to aliens, like he works for that reason, and he brings like a sort of, I mean, not to be repetitive, but very alien sensibility to the stuff that he does, to his work. And I think it is I get why he's there on that particular crew.
Right. Because they're going out into what is to them the unknown. They don't know what they're going to encounter. And he is familiar with these other alien species and the diseases that they could bring and that sort of thing.
But isn't that again, I'm speaking out of my butt because I've watched one episode, but isn't that just giving you really strong Neelix vibes? Like, wasn't that his whole deal? Like, you're new here, but I've seen all this shit before, so I've got some latex on my face. Let me tell you about it.
Okay.
Rough. Okay, that's a rough.
Oh.
As he drinks his wine. Okay. So the Doctor is moving on to the next round.
Oh.
Okay. So here we go. This is another hard one. As I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe this wasn't as balanced. Okay. Dr. Beverly Crusher versus Dr. Hugh Culber.
This is hard.
Also tough.
Really hard.
I mean, listen, my prejudice is fully visible in that, we had a lifetime of sci-fi babes. And he is the first sci-fi babe clearly aimed at my people. So I fear that I would give him excess weight for that reason, but
okay, that makes sense.
But I mean, Beverly, I don't know. I can't. I have a hard time putting him above Beverly Crusher.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What have we seen? I mean, we've seen Beverly solve, cure plagues, like do amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
And what have we seen Culber do?
Die and come back to life?
Yes.
There we go. That's a good one.
Yes.
He's done.
He put Gray in a new body. No, was that?
Yeah.
Did he do that?
Oh yeah, okay. He kind of transitioned into being also a counselor there for a bit, it seemed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's the chief medical officer. Not that that's points against him, but Dr. Crusher was the head of Starfleet Medical for a year, and then came back to the Enterprise. So I think it's got to be Crusher.
I think it's got to be Crusher. I don't think I'm going to argue that there. I'm sorry, Dr. Culber, but
for my gym bunny friend Damien, I mean, yes, I want to hit the steam room with Dr. Culber,
right?
But what I really want to do is put on a leotard and do some stretchies with Dr. Crusher.
Yes,
absolutely, Dr. Crusher. Sorry, I had to step out again, but having some some toddler issues. Absolutely for Beverly Crusher. Well, Mom just got home from rehearsal, so
excellent.
Well, her
touching
arc, her overall character arc, really culminating with Picard. Like they did right by her, and she is a real person. She has seen some shit in her life, and
a lot's happened in the last 20 years.
Lots happened in the last 20 years.
I hate to see Dr. Culber. I hate to see Dr. Culber knocked out in the first round, but I think you got to give it to Beverly Crusher.
Oh, it's kind of
yeah.
Okay.
Just her importance to the franchise will always outshine his.
Absolutely.
Very true.
Yet we still it took forever to get a Crusher action figure. Anyway, and there's still not a Crusher Funko Pop. But anyway, so
but we're not salty about it at all.
We're not salty about it. Our next matchup, in order to get to 16, we had to scrape the bottom of the barrel a little bit. I'm not weighting this, but Dr. Toby Russell, this is the doctor who, when Worf breaks his back, cures him against Beverly's advice.
This guy doesn't even have a picture pop up when I click on his name. So
it's a woman.
Toby
versus Dr. Salar.
This person, I apologize.
How dare you? That is Susie Plaxton. Show some fucking respect. In the world of Star Trek, she is. First of all, I forget the actor you always reference on this show.
Now I have to look this up.
One of those. She's played like 4 characters minimum in the Star Trek franchise.
Oh, she for sure has.
I forgot her name, but yeah, okay. I had to go to the wiki page.
A Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs. Thank you.
Yes.
She is the, I think, like the only, like the in women, she is the Jeffrey Combs. I don't think there's ever been anyone else who's played as many roles as her.
Maybe Majel Barrett.
This is a trivia question. We'll have to put a pin in, or I should say, maybe she's played more aliens than anyone else. I don't think we've ever seen her as a human.
Oh, you're probably right.
Yeah,
I take it back.
She's Salar. She's Kaler.
She's female Q.
Female Q, and she is an Andorian in Enterprise.
Yeah, well, big role in Enterprise, right next to Jeffrey Combs.
And she's also the star of the Galactic Hospital dramedy that I pitched on our Future of the franchise.
Excellent. Okay, so I think we can say, Dr. Salar, congratulations. You're moving on to round 2.
Sorry, go ahead.
I would just like to point out, not in defense of Dr. Toby Russell, but that is actually one of my favorite Next Generation episodes where she saves Worf. And I love the scenes between her and Beverly. And I love when Beverly chews her out. And I definitely saw pictures from the Star Trek convention in Las Vegas where someone's cosplay was the barrel that broke Worf's back.
That's amazing. That could be a flattering costume. As I'm looking at these, Star Trek costumes, it's hard to think which one will I look best in. Well, a big old barrel would hide all your sins.
Wait. Okay, I'm dead. She played, Damien, you'll appreciate this, at Radio City Music Hall. She played Maleficent in the Radio City Music Hall Disney Spectacular. She wins. That's it. Bracket solved.
Wow. Susie Plaxton. Surprising.
Wow.
Many talents.
And she's done some shit.
Yeah.
She was also on a sitcom that I definitely watched all 3 seasons of in the 90s called Love and War. That was like it was not a Murphy Brown spinoff, but it was from the Murphy Brown team. It was like the Murphy Brown produced. It felt very Murphy Brown.
So I'm still confused as to why I was getting shit earlier. Was it because I didn't know who Caroline Cava was? Who was playing Dr. Russell?
Dr. Russell. I think
that's
you were
why I
talking
got
about
shit?
Dr. Russell, and there was an assumption you were talking about Dr. Solar.
Oh, I love Dr. Solar.
Sorry. Oh, yeah.
No,
sorry. I didn't mean to
that's
jump in.
okay. I just wanted to be clear. I was like, I don't know this bitch. I was
Oh.
like, but I like Dr. Solar.
Oh, kumbaya.
I was just confused because I was like, wait, I like Dr. I never mind. Great. Moving
Love
on.
it.
Susie Plaxton is queen.
Yes.
Yes, queen.
Star Trek royalty. Our next matchup is Dr. Catherine Pulaski, fan favorite, against Dr. Alyssa Ogawa. Now, technically, Nurse Ogawa only appears as a doctor in an alternate reality, but she's such an important character that I thought we can count her.
Mm-hmm.
I actually would like to sort of dig into that one a little bit. Why is she an important character?
Well, in Lower Decks, the episode, not the show,
Yes.
we get to she we see her friendship with Beverly, so I guess she's supporting a more important character there. I don't know. Stage presence.
Well,
I think she's an important presence for sure. Yeah.
She was an example of like my last podcast appearance when I talked about one of the things I loved most was the seeing the actors who they brought them back every now and then. They would pop in and out, but they would pop in and out over 7 seasons.
Right.
To the point where it added color to the crew. It was just like, yeah, this person is also a member of the crew for the past 7 years, and hey, look, they got promoted between season 2 and season 3, and they have an extra pip now. I just love seeing that. I love seeing that there was more than one doctor on the Enterprise who actually stayed on the Enterprise and wasn't just a disposable red shirt. I really did love seeing the same person pop up every now and then.
It fleshes out the world, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like the bridge crew on Discovery.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're somewhere in between like extra and character, and
Mike, I did click on the link to remind myself all of Alyssa's character traits. She was horny. She dated a lot. Like, she always had a new beau.
That's right. All of her conversations with Beverly are about like who she might be going out with.
Yeah.
She was boy crazy. Yeah. I love
that. That definitely speaks to that Berman era writing where the women characters can only talk about being obsessed with men. But sadly.
And then in the alternate, at first I was mistaken. I thought it was an insurrection, but then I looked it up. It was actually an All Good Things in the alternative future. Alyssa lost the baby. That was a very sad line. Alyssa lost the baby.
Yeah.
So for not a featured character, there's a lot of depth there. Well,
yeah.
Pulaski. I think I'm in the minority on this one, but
wait, the minority. Explain your position though. Ben.
Yeah,
minority.
Please. I don't think I know.
I have never really been a fan of Dr. Pulaski, and I think it's because the first thing she does is like pick on Data as soon as she walks on the ship. And Data was like a life-changing character for me. It was just like, I don't know. It's just a different way of looking at the world. It was sort of the first character that I had encountered that I was forced to examine humanity and my own humanity. So it was a big impact to me. So to see somebody walk on board the Enterprise and just be like, make me coffee machine, or like
Data.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't even say
What's
it
the
right.
difference?
She doesn't even say it right. It is my name. So
one is
I
my
just,
name. The other is
she
not.
got off. Me and her got off on the wrong foot, and I can't. I was in love with Dr. Crusher as well. So to see her disappear, and then they brought her back. So I was like, oh yeah, good. They admitted their mistake and brought back the right doctor. So it's just, I understand. She by far Pulaski is a fan favorite. People love Dr. Pulaski and her like country doctor gumption. It's like very McCoy, but she never wild her charms on me.
I feel like this is a softball, but I feel like I want to hear why Mike Jones loves Dr. Pulaski. Because I know that he does. Now is your chance.
Counterpoint.
Well, I mean, who's she going to go up in the next round? I'm just assuming she's moving on. It's not passive aggressively decided that.
I can accept that result, especially given her competition. I
sure
love Alyssa Ogawa, but
Dr. Pulaski has her heart in the right place. I think that she has a gruff exterior. There's another doctor farther down in the list who also has a very gruff exterior.
There's a few of them.
I would really trust Pulaski with my life. She will go beyond to save a patient in a way that, I mean, they all would, but I don't know. There's something earthy and real about her that, there's nothing fake. She's not going to put on airs.
I love the episode where like the ship is breaking down and she teaches one of her nurses how to make a splint.
Yes.
Remember this?
Yeah. She's a good doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And she had to be called in emergency to save Captain Picard because no one else in the sector could blah, 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 blah.
Right. Working his artificial heart.
Should have done it all along. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. His stupid pride.
I definitely want to advance her. I was showing Alyssa some love because I love her.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an obvious choice. I would advance Pulaski because of her significance. I'm going to say I'm going to say controversially, the things I don't like about Pulaski are the things I don't like about Gene Roddenberry. Like if he and I met today, like I don't think we would be buddies. I don't think we could chill. Like he and I would not like kick back some drinks and have a great conversation because I love the foundation of what he created, but I think other people have built on it so much better than him. And Pulaski was very much a Gene Roddenberry character choice. Like I'm gonna fire Gates and I'm gonna get in there and put my kind of doctor in there. So I didn't like the mold that they made her, that they fit her in from the beginning. But I liked what she became. I liked what the actress did with her. I liked what some of the writers tried to do with her. I thought I liked her as a doctor. I think I didn't like her from the beginning because she just felt so forced and she felt like a punishment. She felt like a big middle finger to Gates McFadden, and we're going to replace you with the doctor that Gene wanted from the beginning.
It's also hard from how old was I when season 2 came out? What?
88.
27. Oh,
right. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Same joke, different levels.
Right. From a little child perspective, I didn't understand why Dr. Crusher was gone and Wesley wasn't. Like it just child Mike was like, but his mom is gone. Why is he's still there? It made no sense. So I think it's easy to blame Pulaski for the lack of Beverly. And that's not her fault.
And she was the one to whom I directed my ire. So
right.
I would agree with that sentiment. Yeah.
And likewise, though, she doesn't get an ending. She's just gone. Like there's she's mentioned once again. And that's
she had to go off and do that thing.
Right. Like not even they were just like, Beverly says, I'm familiar with Dr. Pulaski's method. And that's the only thing that of memory blocking. But anyway.
Well, and if they had used her data dissing as like the jumping off point for a journey, how this like sort of like how she kind of grows to understand and appreciate him over time, which maybe she does a little bit, but not enough.
I think that was the end destination, I think, for her.
I think you're right.
That was the reason for that, but we never got a satisfying ending, so I'm a little upset about it.
I said it when we talked about the episode, but if in Measure of a Man, if she was the person who had to defend Data, it would have been a more interesting episode.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
but you know, potato. Okay, so Kate Pulaski moving on. Sorry, Alyssa. Our next matchup.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see if Dr. Crusher and Dr. Pulaski end up in our final two, because that would be the showdown between the two of them in this tournament system. Just saying.
You're right. Well,
the way this bracket is set up.
Our next round one matchup: Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy and Dr. Phil Boyce. Dr. Boyce is the doctor in The Cage, the first pilot. So in a way, he is the proto ship's surgeon that all other doctors are based on in terms of he was written first. This is the doctor who knows that Captain Pike is having issues, and he comes to his cabin with a little portable bar that he carries around with ice in it.
Which
I gotta say,
should we pick?
That scene is actually probably my favorite thing about The Cage. I think it's awesome, and I think that it is, and I think it sets up like the Star Trek doctors as like sort of somewhat outside of the chain of command a little bit. Like they have ability to kind of like, I mean, no, they're not outside the chain of command, but that, you know, and it was a little bit what we got with Bones too, that, you know, this was a person who had a different job where he could actually level with the captain.
Yeah. A real confidant for the captain.
Yeah. And he was, the fact that he was like old and cranky and I fucking love that doctor. I was
very Mad Men, that scene.
Yes. Yes. And it was, and part of me was a little, I mean, I love what they've done with Mbega, but I was like, are we going to get Dr. Boyce on a Strange New cranky old guy?
But
you got to give it up for Bones. I mean, I can't.
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying to vote for Bryce. I just wanted
yeah, no, I think we're doing fine representation of both sides. I think this is a good back and forth, but you got to give it to my boy Bones. He's a pillar of the canon.
Absolutely. Damn it, Jim. I'm a doctor, not a canon. I don't know. I couldn't come with any better. Yeah,
I mean, doctor, not the thing that's relevant to this position.
Right. Yeah, I think we have to obviously give it to Dr. McCoy. So in the interest of moving on.
But Boyce puts up a good good contender in the first round here.
We hold a lot of respect for Dr. Boyce. Okay. Next up, we have another chief medical officer. This one is from the animated series, Dr. Sarah April, wife of Admiral April, against Dr. T'Ana from Lower Decks, who is kind of a cartoon Pulaski.
I would agree with that sentiment, but I like Dr. T'Ana better.
Yes,
I love T'Ana so much. She's one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
Well, and she's not afraid to get it. Remember, the very first episode, she had Tendy's hand inside, like squeezing a patient's heart. I mean, like she's not afraid to like get down in the trenches.
Right. Yeah, she will get in there.
I just want to point out that Dr. Sarah April was voiced by Nichelle Nichols. That's all I got.
Yes. So Nichelle Nichols is on the list. Yeah, I think this one's pretty obvious. I don't think we need to belabor it too much. Obviously, T'Ana is amazing. Just don't go to the holodeck with her because you might be traumatized.
Weird stuff happens in the holodeck.
Okay, our final pairing in round one, Dr. Julian Bashir against Dr. Christine Chappell.
Clarifying question.
Yes.
This is not Who'd You Rather.
Well, so there
Mary
are
Bortkill.
two very different Christine Chapels. I have
Yes.
I have fallen in love with the entire Strange New Worlds cast. I love them. They are family. It has quickly become my favorite show of the franchise.
Awesome.
And I did go back. I went back and I watched the What Are Little Girls Made Of? Very different Christine Chapel. So who are we considering in this bracket?
Well, the Christine Chapel that we
Yes.
see become a doctor is Majel Barrett's Christine Chapel. She's a doctor from Star Trek the Motion Picture Forward. She's really only in that film. She makes cameos in a couple of other films. I thought it's interesting that she would move from being a nurse to being a doctor. That's not a natural career path. I mean, nurses retire as nurses. I mean, it's a different job. You know what I mean? It's different education. But you know, she decided to be a doctor. That being said, Damien, you opened your mouth.
I opened my mouth. This is the problem with on camera. I don't know if this is controversial or not, but to me, Dr. Bashir is actually one of my favorite characters in Star Trek. And I think it is I think it was like a really brave thing that they did, giving us this kind of doofus and trusting that the audience was going to go along for the ride in hopes that he grew into something else. And I think that is one of the great things about that show is they gave us these characters in the pilot that were not the same as they were at the end. And that he really became something more than the sum of his parts. And I love what they did with him. So I'm Julian Bashir all the way.
He is, the genetically enhanced perfect doctor, right?
Yeah.
Which they introduced to the character later in the season, which is kind of
kind of
kind of terrible to the actor. But
yeah, I know. But I think that they I love that they weren't afraid to present like someone who would become a hero, but let him be so flawed and so cringeworthy early on. And in a weird way, and to see like the way that he treated Jadzia going along and what a sort of like weird love-born doofus he was, and to the guy who like not only kind of gets the girl, I mean, a different version of the girl, but like gets the girl and kind of has the standing to have gotten. Do you know what I mean? Like he grew into the man that could be with Dax,
Yeah.
Which maybe does not speak to his medical skills. I think his medical skills are already established, but I'm a Bashir fan.
Speaking of his medical skills, the episode I think of is I just watched it. I don't remember the name of it though, but he's trying to solve this plague. And they basically he finds what he thinks is a hospital, but really it's a place for people to die. Like they come there so that they help them, assisted suicide. But he, rejects that and wants to solve the plague. And he's so dedicated to it that it really speaks, I think, to his devotion to medicine, to the Hippocratic Oath. My vote is Dr. Bashir above Dr. Chapel. As much as I loved, Majel Barrett's version of Christine Chapel. I think we agree.
Agree.
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
4.
Agree.
Oh, no, I just copied the wrong one. Okay. So
Dr.
round
Ta'ana
2
won out of Bashir and Chapel somehow. I don't know how.
Okay. Round 2.
We are split male and female presenting. Let's just identifying 4 and 4.
That is interesting.
All right then. All right then.
I like that. All right. First matchup: Dr. Mabinga versus the Doctor from Voyager.
Oh,
not Doctor Who.
Real.
It's getting real, y'all.
Getting real.
And to be clear, this is the Strange New Worlds Mabinga, not really the TOS Mabinga.
Even though the picture is TOS, right?
The picture is because it's the same character.
It is the same character.
I mean, I gotta say the Doctor, because to me, I mean, what is Star Trek if not seeking out new life forms, and the Doctor is a new life form.
Right. But Dr. Mabinga has a room full of musical instruments ready to offer to any patient who's having problems.
Hey, music therapy is a valid medical form of treatment.
Maybe that was just
the
for
same
Spock.
amount of oxytocin and reduction in cortisol that of any other kind of medicine as well. Okay, it's been proven. But I'm giving it to the Doctor. I love my EMT. Emergency
EMH.
medical EMH.
Right.
I'm like the real EMT,
right,
emergency
EMT.
medical technician is stuck in my head. I was like, no, EMH, my EMH.
I'll
What is the
be
nature of your medical emergency?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying.
I'm gonna go with. Oops, sorry.
We're terrible.
I interrupt so much. I'm sorry.
No, you don't.
I'm not saying anything.
I'm gonna go with Mbenga again. I have really come to love the writing and the characters and the actors of Strange New World so much. And I always like the Doctor. I think he's great. But Mbenga is just such a rich, layered character, and especially what they've done most recently with his war history and where he's gone as a person, from having these fighting skills and seeing and doing these horrible things, but still being true to who he is as a doctor and wanting to heal and wanting to make the world better. I just can't wait to see where he goes in that series. I'm going to go with Mbenga. I love him.
He's the only Doctor to murder somebody in sickbay.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, off the top of my head.
On purpose. He's the only Doctor to murder someone in sickbay
Right.
on purpose.
Well, we know that Beverly lost every patient in season 1. So
Bones does not have a
R.I.P.
great track
Tasha.
record for keeping people
no,
alive.
he's
either.
dead, Jim.
That's true,
They've
right.
been dead a lot under his care.
He's dead, Jim. He also we'll get to Crusher not Crusher, McCoy again later. Okay, so let's be clear. So Steve's vote is Mabinga.
Mbenga all the way. You're the tiebreaker.
We have 2 votes for the Doctor.
Oh, are you the tiebreaker, Mike Jones?
No, there would be a tie.
It would be a tie, yeah.
You would set the tie. We don't have a fifth
and
person.
then we
We'll
would
have to get
have
Aaron
to-
on here for like 1 second just to vote between the two.
Or we could literally just throw it into the text chain and see if Aaron or Lanita answers first.
Oh, that's not a
interesting.
terrible idea.
As much as I love the journey from warrior to healer, as I'm still gonna go to the I'm still going with the Doctor.
Oh,
but I appreciate everything you've contributed, Steve, and I think it's a very it's a tight match. I mean, between these two, if I had to pick,
I feel seen.
I've spent more time with the EMH Doctor with the Doctor than I have
Look
Dr.
at Mike.
Mbenga.
As much
Agonized.
as I know, as much as I love Mabinga and what Babs is bringing to it, his character, and I love that he has that he's this expert on Vulcan medicine, and he has those weird crystal things that he puts on their forehead to help them. Despite all that, I think the Doctor, who never bothered to get a name,
Joe,
really does have the wealth of knowledge of all doctors available in the database, and is I would trust him. I would go to him if I had a problem.
I am forgetting the assignment. Who would you go to in the ER when you're bleeding? Okay.
But if you're just bleeding, Mbenga, I know. Well,
I would rather get a prostate exam from Mbenga.
Oh my God! All right,
medical tricorders be damned.
I'm going to vote Doctor, so I think the Doctor is moving forward.
In a very close, a wiffle waffle of
that one was hard.
Back and forth.
Though we might include prostate exam on this week's trigger warnings.
Oh,
yeah.
Deep breath. Our next,
it's only going to get harder, guys. It's only going to get tougher.
That's what I tell my doctor during my prostate exam.
There you go.
Well done.
My God.
Yes.
We have Dr. Crusher against Dr. Solar.
Crusher.
Now, we have gone on and on about how wonderful Dr. Solar is, and of course, the actress who plays her. Dr. Crusher, however, is
just
Beverly
seniority
Crusher.
alone. I mean,
well, and also, I don't know if we remember the episode "Remember Me," where everyone disappears on Beverly.
Yeah,
but she explicitly says that Dr. Solar has disappeared. Dr. Solar disappeared on her.
But so did everybody. There wasn't any. There was nothing wrong with her. There was something wrong with the universe.
I mean, Bev's gonna crush it. You know.
Yeah. Bev's moving forward.
This one was actually kind of easier than I thought. I thought I would pain over that more, but
yeah.
Over Dr. Solar.
Yeah, I don't know why. For some reason, apparently, I hate Dr. Solar anyway. But
I think it was when we would see her. It was well. Here's the other thing: we saw Dr. Solar, I think, first in the second season.
Yes.
So if
only once.
We only saw her once. Like Pulaski, then she was a welcomed, face in the Schizoid Man, where for some reason Dr. Pulaski does not beam down. Probably the actress wasn't available, and Dr. Solar beams down instead.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Dr. Solar would be very cold and clinical during my prostate exam, whereas Bev and I, we would kiki about community theater and dancing, and it would just be a fun time.
Yeah, you'd wear your matching spandex tights.
Kiki. Okay, our next matchup, two gruff doctors, Dr. Pulaski against Dr. McCoy. Of course, Pulaski, as I said, inspired by McCoy. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't think we can take Pulaski over McCoy. I think that whoever, I feel like I would not respect our listeners if they did not revolt over that choice.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean,
Bones.
Hank McCoy's got to do it.
Bones moving forward.
I do feel like, though, since I have been lightly representing our podcast on the platform formerly known as Twitter, and we did put this to the masses, and there was a debate between, and I don't see this as coming, between Bashir and Pulaski, and everyone said that Pulaski is only better because Bashir is an augment. To which we said, how do we know that's not why she didn't disappear? Maybe Pulaski is an augment herself.
And someone said that they, why does she avoid the transporter?
Exactly.
Ooh.
But I think we can safely say Bones, right?
I'm just glad we're having conversations on whatever that thing that is Twitter was. I'm just glad people are listening.
Yeah,
that's
people
exciting.
Interacting. It's awesome.
You gotta
I thought
it.
about introducing the Kelvin timeline version of Dr. McCoy, because I think he's pretty different. But then we decided to leave all the Kelvin stuff out.
Yeah, I do love me some Carl Urban. That would have been a tough call for me.
Yeah. Okay.
If there's like original McCoy and Kelvin McCoy, if that ended up being a thing, that would be tough.
See, can you imagine?
Yeah.
I'm ready for them to introduce, like, in whatever season 6 or 7 of Strange New Worlds, as they get there. I'm ready for young McCoy. I like the way they're slowly layering people in.
He has the hands of a surgeon, according to Dax. Our next and final round 2 matchup, Dr. Ta'ana versus Dr. Bashir. This one's also hard. Okay, I'll go. No one wants to say anything.
Okay, I think I've made up my mind. I know who I'm voting for.
As much as I love Dr. Ta'ana, and Lower Decks is really my favorite show right now, I'm like living it. She in a recent episode, Boimler dies briefly, and she doesn't know how she brought him back. Like literally, she says, "I can't believe that worked."
But I love that about her.
Maybe she's the only doctor that's honest.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure medicine is just 90% guessing. I don't know. I'm not a medical professional, but that's my take on it.
Probably. I think you're probably right.
Hot take.
Yeah.
So Bashir for you, Mike?
I think Bashir for me. I'm voting Bashir.
Interesting.
He wouldn't get any fur in open incisions. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. I mean, the surgical gown budget alone would be
the little lint rollers.
Well, I don't think we've ever seen him without a shirt on. So he might.
He might.
Fair.
But I'm still going with Bashir.
I'm gonna go Ta'ana, Dr. Tana, just because I like her gumption in a way that I haven't really identified with any of the other doctors with before, but I don't know. She's funny, and I love Lower Decks. I mean,
and I love
Dr.
that all
Bashir's great.
I love that all of the lower deckers are genuinely afraid of her also.
Yes. I mean, she has a reputation, and I think it might not be the most comfortable prostate exam, but I feel like it would be thorough.
Oh, no.
That's all.
As long as she keeps her claws retracted.
Yeah.
Well, playing strictly by the rules of the game, who would you rather be your doctor? I am deathly allergic to Ta'ana, so I do not want that prostate exam.
Fair.
We got the inflammation.
Yeah,
this one's tougher. This one I was back and forth the whole time. I thought I'd go Ta'ana just for, I don't know, to differ from the group mostly, but I was like, I think this is going to go to Bashir, so I'm going to vote for Ta'ana.
All right.
Final four, baby. We got it.
Now we're down. Yeah.
Listen, I feel like our final four is pretty representative of the best of Star Trek.
It had to go this way. Yeah.
Right. We've got
because of the way it was seeded. This is the the result.
It's the way it was seeded.
That's some good seeding, Ben.
Good seeding, guys. We did some great seeding today.
It's almost obvious because we have Dr. McCoy, Dr. Crusher, Dr. Bashir, and the doctor. It's the chief medical officers in chronological order of the shows.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, Mike, is that we went through a very arbitrary process to arrive at the fact that we already.
Yes.
I feel like you could rearrange the first order and the first matchups, and we might get an entirely different thing. But I think we would end up with nearly the same outcome.
Yeah.
Any way you've sliced this.
Round 3 would always get here. Round 4 and 5 are going to be, they may surprise people.
Right. Okay. Well, round 3, we have the Doctor versus Dr. Crusher. This is when it gets real.
All right. So I'm going to just go full id on this one. Like when I am in the midst of my own weird medical crisis, of which I've had a handful in my life, I'm not thinking about Robert Picardo wishing that he's around. My sick person, my injured person brain defaults to Beverly Crusher. Where is Beverly Crusher when you need her?
That is so well put. And I hadn't thought of this in years, but when I was 13 and broke my arm in the emergency room, I think to calm me down, my dad and I were talking about how if Dr. Crusher were there, she could just wave, an instrument over my, a bone fixer and fix it instantly. And that somehow made me feel better. So, yeah, I'm going to go Dr. Crusher as well. As much as I love the Doctor.
Yeah. I mean, I was at a very impressionable age when I was watching The Next Generation. And, when I got hurt, when I was sick or whatever, I didn't, 9 times out of 10, I wanted my mom, not my dad, to come take care of me. And Beverly Crusher was kind of my TV mom on Star Trek. So that's who
You're basically Will Wheaton.
She is.
Yeah, I'm basically Will Wheaton. I mean, we're essentially the same person.
She really was. And that's such a credit to her, to the actress. I mean, they did her dirty in a lot of the writing, but she always shone through, and she always, like, she was still that warm, amazing presence that you wanted by your side, and she felt like a caregiver. And even though the writers barely ever let her be Wesley's mom, she still had that very strong maternal energy. Yeah, I loved her. I just felt you'd feel safe around her.
And while I respect the Doctor's journey and how they did it well, on Voyager, I really, that's not what is at stake here, right? It's like, who's the better caregiver, who's a better doctor.
And I would say, though, I would argue that with season 3 of Picard, that we finally got that journey.
Oh yeah.
And that worth the wait.
A fair point indeed.
Yeah, she has seen some shit. She's been out doctoring.
She's crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, also, how can we see that opening scene of Picard and with her and that big blaster weapon that's killing changelings and not vote for her?
Right. So there we go. Dr. Crusher moves forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
In our next matchup, Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy versus Dr. Julian Bashir. No one wants to go.
I really, going back to what you said about Dr. Piper, I really, and like negating my original comment about hating, Roddenberry's template, I really liked and respect what he was trying to do with the Doctor like archetype of making him, giving him authority over the crew, making him the conscience of the crew, and being the one who could like really, read the captain and tell him when he's out of line, and make him stop and look inward and examine like what he's doing to other people and what his actions are causing. I really, really love that about him. And what I've liked, the only times I've ever liked McCoy on film are not when he's doctoring, it's when he's acting as the bartender, shrink, best friend.
Right.
In Wrath of Khan, when he shows up at Kirk's apartment and is just telling him what we all know.
Giving it to him straight.
But that's not doctoring. He is a better friend than he is a doctor. He is a better observer of humanity than he is a doctor. Bashir is a better doctor.
I think
wow.
I go there with you also, but I think that the way that they built those characters, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, that Kirk needed both of them. Like together they were a complete leader, together they were a complete person. And that sort of humanist viewpoint that McCoy brought was necessary for Kirk to make all the right decisions. And it's funny to also compare that confidant to the captain role, because you look at Bashir and Cisco got there with him, but they were not friends. Do you know what I mean? Like he sort of put up with him. Like he, I think he
adversarial at times.
Yeah.
And the bond that Bones and Kirk have is different, certainly, than like, Spock and Kirk, but it's very important to the story and to the development of the original series.
Yeah.
And again, it's just sort of a pillar that of the entire franchise, of the entire canon. And I think, as much, there's a bit of like, I don't know. He's a country doctor, right? So there's that sort of like down home, down to earth sort of grounded nature that he provides to a show that's set in outer fucking space with aliens and but there's this like real like true wisdom there too that is important for both a doctor and a character in Star Trek, but something that like most episodes need that sort of.
Okay, so here's a metric. You are you've gotten terribly sick or injured, and the news is not good, and you're terminal. Who would you rather hear that news from?
Actually, Bones.
Probably Bones.
Yeah, but then
I feel the same way.
But then
I feel like he'd have a
Bashir
fun
would,
story.
like, up until my very last breath, Bashir would be trying to find some kooky ass way to save me.
He sure would. Yeah.
Bones would deliver the news better, but Bashir would keep working.
The two are so different.
This is an unfair question.
Ben has a good point that McCoy is an old country doctor. And taking it into the real world a little bit, in Roddenberry's Wagon Train to the Stars pitch, part of the reason I think that they wrote McCoy the way they did is that they wanted him to be this. I mean, they cast D. Kelly, who was a Western star. That's what he had done before. That's what he was known for. As this, cowboyish country doctor who will again, I keep saying things like give it to you straight, or shoot straight, or
Straight
where
talk
you stand
express.
with them. He's honest to a fault and passionate, and a brilliant doctor and a brilliant surgeon. But Dr. Bashir has more of a modern take on medicine. We saw many times in the original series. I don't know how many times he said you're dead, Jim. Probably like a half a dozen, but it seems like it was hundreds. He didn't say that after desperately working on the guy to save him. The only time we see that is in Star Trek VI, when he literally climbs on top of Chancellor Gorkon and is like beating his chest to try to get his heart to start back up. But I don't want to say that he gives up on people, but, and it's not fair really, because when someone dies in the original series and he says he's dead, Jim, it's really the writers raising the stakes. That's really what's happening. It's not about the medical drama of him saving somebody. So like, why would they write that into the show? But again, getting all that out of my head and thinking of who I would want to go to as a doctor, I'm shocked to say I think Julian Bashir.
Wow, I think you just flipped me, Mike Jones. I think that
Bones.
I think I was hard to move from Bones, but I feel like that point is that he would keep trying.
I
feel like McCoy is and because if we're not going to talk about McCoy anymore, if he's just lost, I feel like he's a bit of a stoic. You know what I mean? Like
I love a stoic. He's
willing to accept the truth, and he's willing, and a lot of times Star Trek is about sort of pushing past that point of acceptance, right? Like it's like common sense and everything else is telling you that you're boned, but we're gonna find the like you said, the goof out there solution that no one's ever thought of before, because that's how good. And I feel like there's a little bit that's what Star Trek's all about. So I sort of feel that maybe I'm talking myself over to Bashir's side. I don't know. But McCoy is sort of the antithesis of that, and purposefully so, right? Like I'm talking with my hands. I'm getting really animated now. But so I guess, I don't know. I guess I appreciate the sort of just the facts sort of character in a world that is otherwise so far beyond our understanding and comprehension that fantastical things happen on a weekly basis. and I don't know. I guess I appreciate that out of McCoy. But again, I do agree with what you're saying. If we're just going on like, who do you turn to in your moment of medical need?
I love, by the way,
No.
that this is the pairing that has stopped us up so badly.
Yeah, this is the one. I didn't think it would be as much of
I didn't either.
Of a discussion.
I think I want McCoy to, I desperately, as a kid, I probably desperately wanted Bones to be my grandpa.
Sure.
But there was never a moment where I was watching and looked at him and like, oh, I want him to be my doctor. He can give me a shot, you know, like
he's the medical professional in the room. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it comes down to
Are
bedside
we
manner.
going to Bashir? Are we about to all vote for Bashir over Hank McCoy?
It feels like a sacrilege, but I think that's what's happening.
I think that's what's happening. And that's what the people want. That's what the people come here for.
I want a doctor to really like keep pounding on my dead body for a very long time, so that everyone is uncomfortable that he's tried too hard.
Yeah.
Which
remember when Tasha Yar died? Beverly kept going again.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, oh, I can't watch. Oh,
I think a lot about D. Kelly as an actor and the career and just the lifespan of an actor, of a character actor in general. And when you kind of you're associated he started midlife as McCoy. He had a whole career before McCoy, and then everything thereafter it was just McCoy.
Yeah.
And that was it. I remember reading that in the negotiations for Undiscovered Country, I think it was Shatner and Nimoy together who like lobbied to get D. Kelly $1 million paycheck just so he could have a comfortable retirement. Because he was at the end of his life, like he was ready for retirement. I remember that story, and I just always found that very moving.
Well, yeah, because just like 2 years later, he wasn't really well enough to be cleared to do Generations. I mean, they wouldn't insure him.
Yeah.
So, he was definitely, his health was failing at that point.
Wow. So now we're all just going to feel really guilty for not choosing him right now.
Right.
Oh, I feel terribly guilty, but I'm not choosing him.
Right.
He cannot take my appendix out.
I think we should rip off the
Bandit. He would give you a pill and you would grow a new kidney.
I would grow a new kidney.
Well, speaking of doctoring and medical duty, I've been called away. So I'm going to transport down right before the final, and I can't believe it.
Who's your pick?
Oh my gosh.
It's Bashir. We're advancing Bashir.
Yeah,
Who's your pick?
It's Crusher or Bashir.
It's Beverly Crusher for me 100% of the time.
Okay.
That's my final vote.
I think the finals are a nothing burger. I think we know that.
I can't believe it was down to McCoy and Bashir for so long.
Right. I think that
the final four there.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think round 3 was our sticking point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Ben, thank you. Go be super dad.
See you guys later. Thanks so much for having me. Great to be here.
Of course. I'm glad you were here.
The rest of us are still here.
Yes, please hang on. we gotta land this puppy. We have in round 4, final round, Dr. Beverly Crusher in this corner and Dr. Julian Bashir in the other.
Bev, I trust you with my prostate. Go to town.
I mean, is it sexist of me to prefer a male doctor for a prostate exam? Is that so wrong?
No,
I'm not giving it to Bashir, but I'm saying.
But yeah, there's something about choosing a doctor based on who you're comfortable with. A lot of women prefer a female gynecologist or OBGYN. But prostate exams aside, between Beverly and Julian, even though he's genetically enhanced and loves James Bond thrillers, I'm going to go with the dancing doctor, Beverly Crusher.
Yeah, I think that is, I think that goes without saying. I think that it is. Yeah, I don't even know what to say now. Beverly, yes.
Beverly for the win.
There was maybe just a couple years after Next Gen wrapped, or maybe it was after Generations, there was a commercial that Gates McFadden did. It was a blink or you'll miss her commercial.
Mm-hmm.
For some, it was definitely a big pharma commercial. I can't remember what they were hawking, what pill it was, but it was just, a collection of doctor-looking faces endorsing some pill. God, I hope I'm not messing this up. I have to look up what commercial she did. I feel like it was medical. But yeah, for that alone, she gives me more doctor vibes. She has actually tried to sell me medicine.
Which is the true job of a doctor in capitalist.
Which I feel like also like, and I don't know if I'm equipped to speak on behalf of like the fan world, but I feel like, I mean, we've mentioned this. She was an overlooked character who did not get her due, who I think has like finally come into her place in the franchise, in the universe, as sort of where she belongs. As I think that Next Generation is obviously Picard's show, and that he has a counterpoint with Riker. He's got a counterpoint with Data, and Beverly is like right up there as like as one of his most important sort of counterweight characters. And I think that I am, as a fan, am grateful that we have had this recent season where she has gotten to really to be that.
When she puts on the blue lab coat and starts working in sickbay in that third season of Picard, it's just like, oh, finally, like, the expert is here.
And I keep remembering how the actual chief medical officer of the Titan treated her.
Mm-hmm.
That scene where she's like, all your information is 20 years old.
Right.
And she's like, like she's like totally, absolutely unfazed. At no point is her her feelings are not hurt. She's like totally undeterred.
Yeah. Well, she's been doing, Doctors Without Space Borders, right? Like it's she hasn't been working at a Federation trading outpost or something. She so it was unfair, I think, to think that she her info was out of date. Although, yeah, she hadn't been in Starfleet in 20 years. But yeah, Beverly Crusher.
And she raised Jack as a doctor. She was probably teaching him like from a very young age while he was along with her. I looked it up. I lied. It was not a big pharma. It was a Microsoft commercial.
Oh,
I failed. Sorry.
Oh,
still,
well,
he wins.
But still, I feel like there was a DeForest Kelley doctor commercial. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was like Long Distance Calling or something, and I'm just conflating the things. Maybe we all just think that they're doctors every time we see them.
Or when Khan tried to sell us cars for all those years.
Oh, right.
With the fine Corinthian leather.
The fine Corinthian leather.
Can we look back at round one and give an honorable mention to someone who was eliminated in round one?
Yes.
I'm going to go with Dr. Culber.
I knew you would.
I think was my sci-fi babe.
Yeah. Well, he faced Dr. Crusher in the first round, which is
that's a little unfair.
Sorry for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great.
I honestly think Dr. Flock should have probably made it into the second round, but yeah, really Culber should have ranked higher. And I feel like we just haven't seen him do that much. There hasn't been a lot of medical based plots in Discovery.
Yes.
For him to show off. So, because of that kind of storytelling, there's not that plague episode or, whatever that we see in all the other series.
Yeah. I agree with Culber. I love Culber. I love every single one of the characters on Discovery individually. The show as a whole, I was thinking about this. I don't want to say it's like soap opera-ish, but there's no levity to Discovery at all. And that feels kind of a little un-Star Trek to me. There should always be in a season that like one wacky episode that Strange New Worlds is doing so well, just finding the balance between serious Gorn battles and the original kind of kookiness of Star Trek and the silliness of it. And there's just no silliness whatsoever in Discovery. It is all high stakes death all the time.
All high stakes.
The only counterpoint I might make to that is Jet Reno.
Oh, sure. She's the comic relief.
But also kind of dark. Like she has she's got a dark history and she had a dark wartime, and her jokes are not light by any means. She's like, oh great, we're gonna die. That's just it is. She is one of my favorite additions to Star Trek.
Yeah, she's the Dr. T'Ana of engineers.
Yes.
With Discovery, I find it exhausting. When they announced that this next season will be the last, I wasn't happy about it, but I wasn't like really ripped up about it because Strange New Worlds is so much better, and I want to see the franchise moving in that direction. Discovery, even though the people individually are wonderful, has nothing to do with the actors. It is always high stakes. There's always, I feel like somebody cries in every episode. I'm sure that's an exaggeration, but and in the middle of big battles, everything will stop for someone to say like, when I was a child, like blah 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 trauma. You know what I mean? And it's like, what? There's so much emotional baggage in this show.
You know what it is also, and I say this as the most liberal Democrat in the world who genuinely cares about everything that's topical that I'm supposed to care about right now. But Discovery, I think it's a writing trap, writing too much to the moment and writing too much to every issue that's topical. And again, without the levity of it, like without just a single laugh line in there, just it's, and the representation in Discovery is wonderful. All the non-binary representation is wonderful, and I love it. But you know what it was? It's when growing up gay in the 90s, when you would watch a gay movie, and it was always kind of a dark gay movie. It was always an AIDS movie. So it's like, we're going to represent you, but we're going to represent you with some kind of heavy, depressing content. And I don't know, I sometimes feel Discovery goes that way too, in the way it tackles topics. It doesn't tackle them just with any lightness. Everything is heavy.
Yeah, I agree. I understand where you're coming from with that.
I'll be very interested to see what this last season brings us, because I think that they it's being billed as more of an adventure. It is less of a, the entire galaxy is at stake kind of story we're told. So I wonder if they find some levity there. Because, I actually did identify with a lot of the representation in Discovery. I think that I was really pleased. Not only was there a gay love story, but there was a love story between two men where that love between two men was integral to the actual sci-fi of it. And that didn't feel like representation to me. That felt like its own story. So yes, I agree with what you say about Star Trek being about, in part that and Worf says, and I'll go too, and I'll make it a threesome.
Right.
Says,
Yeah.
do you even hear yourself?
Right. But it was a little.
It was, but it was like their willingness that the entire galaxy is at stake. Everyone is going to die, and their willingness to throw a joke in there.
Yeah.
And that we can have that moment. That it can exist as a counterpoint to the we're all going to die moment.
Yeah, I think the Discovery writers haven't found very much of those comic relief moments. Yeah, although just to say what you were saying about representation, the first time we see Hugh Culber, our honorary shout out, brushing his teeth next to Stamets, like this just normal married couple going to bed, brushing their teeth. Like it meant so much to me to see that finally in Star Trek. It's not some weird alien. There's not a worm inside somebody and it makes two girls kiss. It's just normal husbands being husbands, Yeah, that was great. Well, I think that, we have solved all the medical issues in the world here with our doctor bracket. Our world champion is Dr. Crusher. I would love to hear some feedback from the listeners. Like, do you agree with us? Do you think we're crazy? Are you, Dr. Solar all the way? Please, tweet at us or X at us. I don't know. There's no verb version of X. You can find us at Hailing Freak Open on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or at hailingfrequenciesopen.com. Steve, thank you so much for being here and lending your voice and expertise in our Trek fandom, and just being a friend of the pod. Thank you.
Thank you. Love it.
We'll have to have you on when we should do a bracket with ships, I think, next.
Oh, we totally should, because he acts like he's not a nerd, that I'm the nerd. And then all of a sudden he goes all Sergei Roshenko. I have all the specs and diagrams at home.
I have opinions.
Yes.
No, I'm not like a shipbird. I can't name every Katenga class, whatever the things are. But I would
Katenga class. You knew that.
I would obsessively watch as a kid to make sure the inside matched the outside, to make sure where the room was in the ship and the angles and the walls and everything, made sure that was architecturally correct with the outside of the ship. I would obsess over that.
In the Enterprise D, we see a lot of rooms with the windows on the ceiling that are slanted, but there are rooms on the bottom of the saucer. We never see those rooms with the windows that are basically in the floor. Yeah, the lower
Don't
decks.
even talk to me. They've tried to retroactively make 10 forward work on the internet, because I've done deep dives onto schematics.
Yeah.
How the writers have tried to retroactively explain how that configuration is actually the 10th deck of the ship, and it takes them a little work. They have to be deck 8 is actually a deck and a half tall, and deck 9 is double height, and if you look it up online, they do a lot of work with it to make 10 forward on deck 10.
That's
with the way the windows line up.
Right. Okay, yeah. So this is happening. We're booking you to come back and talk about ships. So check us out next time that Steve joins us, and all of our other episodes. I think that's about it. I'm gonna say Hailing Frequencies closed.